Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Supercars. In this episode, I will be previewing the Repco Bathurst 1000, which is happening this weekend. I'll be running down the schedule, the forecast, some news, as well as my predictions for each car, and we'll finish off with my top 5 predictions. So, starting off with the news. Blanchard Racing has signed Todd Hazelwood for 2023. Not really a shock there, as it has been looming around for a while. And of course, Matt Stone Racing has said that Hazelwood is open to discuss to other teams. So he'll be driving their Gen 3 Mustang next year. Slade, not sure where Slade's going to end up next year. He could either end up at Matt Stone Racing or more likely Premier. They're yet to announce their lineup for next year, but I reckon he will probably end up there with Golding. Shane Van Gisbergen was able to score a podium on debut in WRC2 after completing 4 stages. He managed to finish 3rd after having a spin on Friday and suffering a puncture on Saturday. So that's pretty amazing work, incredible work from him. Dick Johnson, he will steer the new Gen 3 Mustang on Thursday, which is scheduled to be revealed around midday on that day. Now, of course, DJR has been heavily involved in developing the Mustang for next year. Anton Di Pasquale and Tony D'Alberto, as well as running the classic DJR livery, they'll also be swapping their car number. So car number 11 will become car number 100. As a tribute for Repco's 100th anniversary, which of course was founded in 1922. The Super Cheap Auto Wildcard livery has been revealed today. I'm filming this on Tuesday, and it is dedicated to the fans. The livery includes a heartbeat which resembles the passion the fans have for the sport and the mountain, as well as it includes 1,000 faces of different fans who all took part in a competition. Penrite Racing has unveiled a Bathurst livery, which is very similar to the 2017 Erebus winner, which of course Reynolds drove to victory with Luke Yordan. And speaking of Penrite Racing, they have announced their driver lineup for next year, and David Reynolds and Matthew Payne will be racing for them next year, which is no surprise there. Alright, next up, we'll go through the event details and schedule. So, of course, 161 laps, 1,000 Ks, roughly 6 hours of racing, but there is going to be some wet weather coming our way this weekend. Roughly up to 30 mils of rainfall for the race, with Thursday said to be the clearest day. I believe 15 mils or 10 mils around there. So it'll be very interesting to see how the drivers go, especially the rookies who haven't been on the mountain before in the supercar. It'll be interesting to see how they go. Now, quick look at the schedule, if I can get my words right. On Thursday, we've got 2 pairs of practice sessions for each category. So we've got Super 2 Practice 1, followed by Supercars, and then another practice for Super 2, and then obviously another practice session for Supercars. However, that is the only co-driver only session to take place this weekend. Friday, we've got the qualifying for the Super 2 Race 1, and then followed by the Supercars Practice 3 and Practice 4. And then Super 2s have their first race of the weekend, scheduled for 18 laps. And then followed by qualifying for the Supercars, which is scheduled for 40 minutes. Of course, it sets the grid for the 1000 race. However, the top 10 will make it into the top 10 shootout for the following day. So Saturday schedule, Super 2 qualifying for their second race, and then followed by practice 5 and 6 for Supercars. Super 2, they have their second race, again scheduled 18 laps, and then to finish off the day, the Supercars have their top 10 shootout. And then obviously on Sunday, starting the day, the Supercars warm-up, and then obviously the big 1,000k race. So big weekend, not as big as last year, obviously with the massive week of racing we had last year, but still plenty of action to come. If you want to look at all the timetable and stuff, go to supercars.com. All the information will be there. All right, quick brief rundown of the car list, starting with Nick Percat and Warren Luff. Luffy is usually really good around here. Of course, Percat has won. He won in 2011 with Tanda. I reckon expect them to be in the top 10, probably between 7 and 10. Car number 3, Slade and Blanchard, the two Tims. Expect them to be somewhere in the top 15, maybe 13th. I reckon. Maybe a possible top 10, but I don't think they will probably get there. Who knows? Might surprise me. Car number 4, Jack Smith and Jackson Evans. Of course, Evans is a rookie in the Supercars. There's plenty of rookies to go around. I reckon they'll probably expect a top, probably again in the top 15, probably 13th. Evans is a pretty quick driver. Expect him in the top 13 to 20th position. Next up is car number 5 in the hands of James Courtney and Zane Goddard. I reckon again top 15, but I reckon might be able to see them in the top 10 if they have a good day. Car number 6, Waters and Moffat. Now they've finished second for like forever now. Obviously they've stated on the headlines that they've been wanting, they stated it on the media, at least Cam Waters did, that they are desperate for a win. He's sick of finishing twice, and I reckon this is probably his best chance yet. So I think he's in it to win it. If not, definitely between 2nd to 5th. So we'll see how we go over there. He won't go any lower than 5th, I reckon, unless something bad happens. Next is car 8, Andre Heimgartner and Dale Wood. Both of them have had plenty of experience around the mountain, especially Dale Wood. Heimgartner's been performing very well this season, especially at Pukekohe the other week. He was able to score a podium. I reckon they have what it takes to be on the podium again on the mountain, but I don't think they'll go any lower than 8th. They're definitely a speedy car and speedy drivers, so stay tuned for them. Car 9, Will Brown and Jack Perkins. A pretty good duo. They're both pretty quick drivers. I reckon see them in the top 8. Probably the lowest they'll go is 13th. Of course, unless dramas. Who knows? They might end up in the top 5 as well. But realistically, I reckon aim for the top 8 for them. Car 10, Lee Holdsworth and the second rookie in the field around the mountain, Matthew Payne, of course, who has scored a 2023 drive with Grove Racing. I reckon expect a top 14 to 18th for them. Not saying they're bad drivers, I just don't reckon they have the car pace behind them, but who knows, might surprise them. Car 14, Forward and Fury. Forward hasn't been particularly strong this year, unfortunately. Hasn't really been in the headlines much. I reckon top 12 to 15, I reckon, so aim for that. I think that's the realistic thing there. Now, car number 17, the Davison brothers. Now, I reckon they can easily score a top 5, top 10. I think they do have a chance to win. Obviously, Davison has been very strong the last few rounds, especially Sandown. He's able to score a few wins in the last couple of rounds, which is pretty cool. So I reckon he has he has the pace, has the car speed for a possible win, maybe even a pole position. I'll see how we go. Car 18, Mark Winterbottom and Michael Caruso. I reckon, again, top 14. Probably the lowest they'll go was 22nd. Again, car speed hasn't been their favour this year. Car 20, Scott Pye and Tyler Everingham. Pye did very well in Pukekohe, managed to score, I believe, a top 5. It's been a while, so bear with me. I reckon they have what it takes to probably top 13. Probably lowest they'll go is probably a 16th. But I think they might have a chance, I reckon, for a top 8, I reckon, if they have a good day. Next up is car 22, Pither and Hill. Of course, Hill is a rookie as well. They've got the Coke livery, the Crompton and Gardner livery, which looks incredible, by the way. But I don't think it will help them with car pace. I reckon the best they can get is probably a top 16. Maybe if top 14 if they're having a good day. Maybe 12th even. You know what? Let's go. I reckon the best they can do is a 12th on a good day. Bathurst can anything can happen, especially on in wet conditions. But realistically, probably 16th to 25th. Car 25, Mostert and Coulthard. Now, obviously, they dominated last year's Bathurst with getting a pole and obviously win. Obviously, Mostert had Holdsworth last year, but obviously Holdsworth is now a full-time driver, at least till the end of the year. Partnering with Fabian Coulthard, both are very strong drivers. I reckon just probably a top 5, maybe a podium, chance for a podium, but I don't think they'll have a result like they did last year. That was probably, it's going to be hard to beat, obviously. So I reckon realistically top 5, between 5th and 10th. Car 26, David Reynolds and Matt Campbell. I reckon probably 11th to 18th, within that range there. Probably realistically 13th. Next, car 31, James Golding and Dylan O'Keefe. Golding's done really well this year. Obviously, taking Gary Jacobson's place in the Subway Mobile. He's been doing really well considering the car's performance. I reckon they can probably, best they can do is a 12th. They'll finish somewhere between 12th and 20th. Car 34, Jack LeBrock and Aaron Seaton, another rookie in the field. Matt Stone Racing, they've had an up and down season. Some areas they've done really well, some they haven't, unfortunately. I reckon expect a top 11 for them. Expect them to finish between 11th to 18th, I reckon. Car 35, Todd Hazelwood and Jaden Ojeda. Again, similar to Jack LeBrock and Seaton, I reckon expect just either outside the 10 or just on the edge of 10th. Probably the best, if they're having a good day, probably a 7th. But realistically, probably between 10th and 17th. Car 51, obviously our first of the 3 wild cards we've got this weekend. Richie Stanaway and Greg Murphy. They finally get their chance at racing once again. Of course, they were meant to race last year, but because of COVID and border restrictions, they were unable to compete. So it's fantastic to see them once again, especially in Holden's final Bathurst. I reckon, obviously, it's been a long time since either of them have competed in a supercar, especially Murphy. Murphy last competed in 2014. So I'm not expecting amazing results. because it hasn't been a while and the cars have changed since he last sat in it. So I reckon realistically probably they're in the shot for a 10th, in the top 10, just between the 10th and 15th position. Probably realistic, I reckon 14th. Obviously, it'll be fantastic if they get in the top 10, but realistically, I reckon, 14th. Car 55, Tom Randall and Zach Best. Now, Zach Best performed beautifully at the Bend in his wildcard performance, obviously getting pole position. And Randall's is a really speedy driver. I reckon they have what it takes to finish probably in the top 8. Probably the best they can do is probably they have a 7th, but realistically expect them to finish between 8 to 13. Car 56, the Kostecki brothers. We've got Jake Kostecki and Kurt. Tickford, they're in the Tickford cars. Tickford has been alright this year. They're usually okay here around the mountain. Expect them to be somewhere between 10th to 15th. Again, ideally, if they have a good day, probably an 8th, but realistically, somewhere between 10 and 15th. Car 88, Brock Feeney and Jamie Wenkup. Now, Feeney's done really well this year. The Triple 8 cars have just been sensational all year. I reckon they have what it takes to be in the top 5, maybe a chance for the podium. But realistically, I reckon expect them to be between 5th to 11th, I reckon. Unfortunately, Jamie hasn't had a fantastic record lately since 2013 on the mountain. Of course, he finished runners-up, I believe, in 2013, but obviously we all know what happened in 2014, and it just went downhill from there. So hopefully they can do well this weekend. Be cool to see. Obviously, Brock Feeney's 3rd Bathurst 1000. Of course, he started with Tickford with James Courtney a couple of years back, but this is his first proper Bathurst 1000 with a crowd. Obviously, last few years have been quite lonely due to COVID. Car 96, Macaulay Jones and Jordan Boys. Haven't been particularly strong all year. I reckon expect them to be somewhere between 18th into the back of the grid. Realistically, I reckon they have what it takes to finish 15th, but we'll see how we go. Car 97, Shane Van Gisbergen and Garth Tanner. Now, obviously, Gisbergen's just in another league this year. Again, like last year, he's dominating again. I reckon they have what it takes to win this year. Of course, they both won in 2020. They're a strong pairing. Obviously, last year they had dramas, but I reckon they have what it takes to win this year. If not, expect them to finish somewhere between 1st and 6th. Car 99, Brody Kostecki and David Russell. I reckon expect them to finish somewhere in the 10. Lowest probably 14th. Two great drivers. Kostecki knows how to throw the car. He's a brilliant driver. So we'll see how we go. Now, car number 100, which is obviously car number 11, but they're running the tribute number for this weekend. Anton Di Pasquale and Tony D'Alberto. I reckon they have what it takes to finish on the podium. And if not, they'll be in the top 5, I reckon. They might have a chance for the win. Like I said, anything can happen. But I reckon they'll be close, I reckon. Car 118, our second wild card of the field. Matt Charter and Jay Robertson. Apologise if I say that wrong. Both rookies in the field. First time in the main game around the mountain. Obviously, they're running their own privateer squad, which is amazing, which is incredible to see. It's always great to see privateers having a crack. Obviously, back in the day in the 90s, privateers kept giving you could see a lot of privateers, but now, unfortunately, due to costs and all that, you rarely see it. So it's brilliant to see them having a crack. but in doing so, they're actually going to be sitting out of this round of Super 2, so to purely focus on the main game. So be interesting to see how that affects their championship standings. But I expect them to be somewhere between 16th to last. Obviously, it's a big scale there, but realistically, I reckon they have what it takes to finish 16th. On a good day, maybe 13th, but it's hard to tell as they've never raced in the main game before. So it's a bit hard to follow, but they're both quite strong in Super 2, so I'll be curious to see how they go. And obviously, our final wild card for the weekend, car 888, Craig Lowndes and Declan Fraser, the super cheap auto wild card. I reckon they've got a strong team going there. They've got a good mechanic, they've got good engineer, they've got good team, good squad. Obviously, it's from the 888 bunker. And Craig Lowndes, obviously, we all know how much of a legend he is. And Declan Fraser, our final rookie of the weekend, has never competed in the main game or in the mountain before. So I'll be curious to see how he goes. It's quite similar to what Lowndes has compared it to when him and Brock worked together. Obviously, they didn't race together, but they worked together. In a way, he feels like the Brock figure for Fraser, so it's great to see. Hopefully they can do well. I reckon they finish probably just outside the top 5, somewhere between probably 7th, I reckon they can finish. If not, the lowest I reckon is a 12th. Obviously, I'd love to see Lowndes win, but obviously you got to be realistic. I reckon probably the best they can do is a 7th. Like I said, anything can happen on the mountain, especially when it's bucketing down with rain, and definitely never ever count Lowndes out. So to finish off today, here is my top 5 for potential finishes for the race. So I've had a lot of thought about this. I reckon it's now you might think, oh, this is very cliche and like very boring, a boring top 5, but I'm trying to be realistic here. I reckon Gisbergen and Tander can win it again. Obviously a strong pairing, and Gisbergen's been performing sensationally all year. I reckon they have a chance to win this year. Followed by the Davison brothers. Obviously Will has done really well this year. He's been strong last couple rounds, so I reckon he'll do really well this weekend. And then I'm not counting out Waters and Moffat for the win, as they finished second last few times. I didn't include him second on this top 5 list, so you're welcome. You're welcome, Cam. But I'm putting you down for 3rd position. Who knows? Like I said, it's very up in the air for what can happen. But I reckon, personally, this is more like a random guess, if anything. I reckon they'll finish 3rd. Followed by Feeney and Winkup in 4th. And then 5th is Di Pasquale and Alberto. So I'll be curious to see how this weekend goes. I'm curious to see how much of the weather plays into it. Now I might be doing, if you stay tuned for my channel, I might be doing a daily report of each day on the mountain. So expect a report on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whether it'll be on my YouTube or Instagram. Stay tuned for that. And obviously on the Sunday, or not the Sunday, probably Monday or Tuesday, I'm hoping to upload a race recap where I review it and give my thoughts and see how close we are to our predictions here. But so curious to see how the weekend goes and cannot wait. So stay tuned and have a good weekend.